Hello and welcome to Open, the show opening the Bronx and the rest of the world to you. I'm Kibin Alleyne covering for Darren Jaime, and today we'll update you on what's happening in and around our borough and New York City. Coming up, we'll explore how a company is using chess to help young people plan their futures. More details about this later on in the show. In honor of Disability Pride Month this July, we'll highlight a special curriculum designed to train future physicians in treating patients with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Then we'll also discuss practical steps for reducing our plastic footprint through better clothing choices. Lastly, we'll break down the new regulations clarifying tax reporting requirements for digital assets. So stay tuned, all this and much more is headed your way because we're now officially open. Hello everyone, I'm Kibin Alleyne and you are now watching Open, a live program bringing the Bronx and New York City straight to you. We also want to welcome our viewers to the Manhattan Neighborhood Network as Open is being broadcast simultaneously on MNN's channels. You can stay connected to us on all social media platforms at BronxNet TV. Some things have been going on throughout this past week. We'll take you through it with some Bronx updates. We start with community news. In 1990, the Americans with Disabilities Act was signed into law. The act prohibits discrimination against people with disabilities. However, in 2024, Bronxites are still fighting for their community. Our BronxNet reporter Brittany Schuyler has a story.
July is Disability Pride Month, so in celebration, the community gathered at Borough Hall for a day of amplifying the great achievements made, but also emphasizing the extensive work that still needs to be done.
This is how the Bronx is coming together with the rest of the city to launch Disability Pride Month in the Bronx, but collectively as a city to celebrate the disability community.
In 1990, the Americans with Disabilities Act was signed into law. The act prohibits discrimination against people with disabilities. However, in 2024, Bronxites are still fighting for their community. At the moment, Bronxites say that the biggest piece missing from disability care is awareness. Without awareness, they feel like there is little hope for accessibility.
All spaces need to be accessible. Anything less is unacceptable for us.
Disabled Bronxite and member of the Bronx Disability Task Force, Daniel Porro, tells me that in the age of technology, disabled people need specific software to adequately communicate with city agencies. Unfortunately, with a lack of technological savviness from individuals and software compatibility from the agencies, the disabled community is finding it harder to get in contact and get the care they need.
There are city agencies that doesn't understand the individual's disability that you cannot see. Government step up to the plate.
Porro says that at the moment, word of mouth is the best way to spread awareness. He urges local civilians up to other government officials to take Bronx Borough President Vanessa Gibson's lead in discussing accessibility with community boards and agencies to ensure improvements.
Also important because what we need now is for her to tell her community boards to activate and create disability committees.
As Disability Pride Month has been activated for the second time in 12 years, elected officials and members of the disabled community hope to band together and finally get the accessibility, care, and resources they're fighting for. Reporting for BronxNet, Brittany Schuyler.
Thank you, Brittany. In other news, the Fordham Night Market is a key force in the Bronx's food and culture scene, supporting local vendors and building community ties. By providing a platform for entrepreneurs to showcase their talents, the market has helped to boost the local economy and promote the community's talents. Our BronxNet reporter Chris Camilla has more details.
Night Markets NYC is known as the premier culinary concert organizer, bringing the borough's best flavors and spirit out together during a city-exclusive summer festival.
Out in New York City, baby.
And today it's bringing the Fordham Plaza community together for its newest installment of the anticipated Night Markets series. Continuously revolutionizing the local scene with dozens of vendors, this event draws in hundreds of people who aren't letting the heat beat their fun.
Real hot, because I've been here out at 8 o'clock this morning, and it's getting real hot out here right now.
Live music performances throughout the afternoon and evening add to the vibrant atmosphere. And it's no secret that the rich diversity of this event is evident through its expansive variety of offered cuisine. And there's no shortage here. From traditional dishes to innovative fusion, the Fordham Night Market offers plenty for the crowd.
We got a lot of food out here for different vendors out here setting up. Just come on down today. There's plenty of food out here and plenty of things going on down here, so come on out.
The event's success would not be possible without the support of esteemed sponsors and partners, including Bronx Borough President Vanessa Gibson, Council Member Oswald Felice, and the New York City Department of Transportation, among others. Their collaboration helps the Fordham Night Market and other participating locations thrive each year, bringing in returning vendors while encouraging new ones to join in on the fun.
For us here at Carnival Dreams, this is actually our first year. And it's been going pretty well, I have to say, for the most part.
Night Markets NYC continuously plays a vital role in strengthening the Bronx's identity and contributing to its cultural and economic growth, all summer long.
Now, this is one of the longest running events here in the northernmost part of the Bronx. And just from the size of the crowd alone, there is no sign of stopping anytime soon. From Grand Concourse, BronxNet Community Television, I'm Chris Camilla.
Thank you, Chris. That's all for the Bronx updates. We have to take a quick break, but we'll have more open when we return.
Check your pulse and turn off your phone. Get ready to be entertained. The Bronx Education is back, and we've got more youth voices, educational partnerships, exciting global discoveries with Alexi Gingertopoulos, dollar store science experiments with Dr. Whitey Black, and tons of ways for you to engage with us as we bring laughter and knowledge right to your doorstep. Me and the crew welcome you to Season 3 of the Bronx Education. The new season of the Bronx Education is here. Every Monday at 4:30 p.m. on Channel 67 Optimum, 2133 Fios.
Welcome back. Project Pawn is an organization dedicated to mentoring youth and guiding them to start with their end goals in mind and work backward, mastering the game of life to reach their milestones. Joining us now are the co-founders of Project Pawn, Abdul Sulaiman Jr. and Chris Johnson. Thank you both so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having us.
Now, for those who are not familiar, with your organization, can you tell us a little bit more about Project Pawn?
So Project Pawn is very unique. We were founded in 2013. We're a mentoring organization that teaches chess, but not only chess, we mentor through the game of chess. So there are plenty of programs that offer chess and everything from A to Z, but what we do is we teach kids how to apply those skills to everyday living.
Okay, that's amazing. And like we're going to talk more about chess, which I think is amazing, but it's never been kind of introduced to me as like a game that can kind of help you just be like focused and kind of help you on your goals. Can you tell me where the idea for that came from?
Mm-hmm.
So when you're playing chess, like there's so many different things going on at once, all these different moves. And so it really brings you in and draws you in. And especially kids that have that really have active minds, it gives them something to really focus that on. And the possibilities are endless with a chess game. Like there's more possible chess positions than there are atoms in the universe, apparently. And so with that, there's just so many different things to wrap your mind around, and it just kind of brings you in. And the more you understand the game, the more knowledge you get on the game, the more it draws you in to get to know more.
That's amazing. Now, I'm curious to know at what age did you both, were you both introduced to chess, and how did it shape your early years?
For me, I was about 10 or 11 when I was exposed to it. So we have a unique story. We both played on the same team growing up. Chris was playing before me. He was the golden child, I would say, of the chess team. And he would always travel more. So I was more of the basketball guy. I played basketball, but I did a lot of local things, local tournaments, borough tournaments. And I got exposed to it because of the exposure the chess team got traveling throughout the country. And it provided opportunities for us to leave our neighborhoods and things like that. So I took on that as well as basketball, like around 10 years old.
And for me, it was a very similar story. I was 6 years old in the first grade. Actually, I was in kindergarten, and my friend was traveling to North Carolina. And they were staying in a hotel, flying out there, room service and all of that. So I'm like, oh, if I join the chess team, I get to have that experience too. So I was in kindergarten, I kept trying to go into the class, and coach kept telling me, no, you're too young. First grade rolls around, she came and got me. And then once I got there, it turned into like not just wanting to travel, but really want to be really good at the game. My school was from kindergarten to 8th grade. So we're 8th graders, 7th graders on the team, and they showed no mercy during those games. So I would go home and really practice, and then that's how I really, really built my skills.
Wow, that's amazing. And so young that you both started. So that's, I mean, I would think that kind of helps, especially when you're working with children. Can you talk about, how chess has maybe helped you throughout your life and how you kind of plan to, put that through to the kids today?
Yeah, so chess kept me out of trouble. We grew up in the Bronx in a rough neighborhood, and chess was the thing that kept me, out of trouble. And from my experience of playing chess as a kid, I can speak to the kids that I teach because I was in their shoes, and I know what they're thinking, I know how they're feeling. There's a lot of pressure when you're playing chess, especially as a kid. Your parents have these expectations of you, your coaches have these expectations of you, your teammates have these expectations, and a lot of people are making sacrifices so that you can play this game. And so those losses are tough as a kid because you have all these people supporting you. And so I can speak to them on that level and talk them down from that, from that mindset into like just play the game and have fun.
That's amazing. And for you?
Yeah, and from a student athlete perspective, sports and chess go hand in hand. I didn't realize it at such a young age, but it teaches you how to think ahead, how to strategically move on a chessboard. But then when you play sports, counter moves, just thinking what your defenders are trying to do as you're attacking offense. So what chess does for our kids is a lot of kids play sports, a lot of kids are in the arts. It helps them connect the dots, it helps them to troubleshoot whenever they have a problem in school, in sports, or even on a chessboard. But it also gives them a different light, a different energy to focus. I was the hyper kid that played 1,000 sports, but chess was the one thing that kept me grounded, seated, focused at the same time. So.
Now, with that being said, how does Project Pawn use chess as a metaphor for life? Because I think that's also very important here. And what are the key lessons you hope to, instill in the youth?
So there's countless benefits to chess and metaphors to life. And the more I teach, the more I realize I don't even have to make the connection. Like, I can talk to you about a position and it sounds exactly like a life situation that you would go through. I think the two most important things that I want kids to take away from chess is, one, consequences for your actions, especially in certain neighborhoods. If I do this, if I make this move, what are the good things that can happen? What are the not so good things that can happen? And is it worth that? Like risk assessment, right? And also being resourceful. So when you're playing a chess game, you can't like throw another piece on the board. You can't wish a rook is there, right? You have to look at what you have and use that to get what you want. And so those two things are, I think, what will get kids to that next level.
That's amazing. Now, I'm curious to know, are you looking for any partnerships, or what type of partnerships would you be looking for, especially when we're talking about helping children in the inner city or, underserved neighborhoods? We heard the saying that it takes a village. So, when you think about your village, what are some of the qualities that you look for?
So one of the first ones we look for is community. We love to partner with schools. We love to partner with CBOs. We love to partner with organizations that are doing the work, not just in the realm of chess, but just in the realm of developing the whole child. So what we really focus on is community, parent involvement, school involvement, and then also involvement just with their peers. A lot of kids don't know they're good at chess until they're exposed to it. So just putting more opportunities to expose the game to kids, and then also for them to reap the benefits from it.
Now, I understand that you're opening a new location this fall. Can you tell me a little bit more about what's happening there and some of the programs that will be provided?
Yeah, so the Project Pond Center is an incredible initiative that we're starting, which will be opening pretty soon. It will be up and running the school year in September. But this place will be a safe haven for kids to come, for kids to learn how to play chess, for kids to just have a sense of community to come and just relax and be themselves. We'll be offering a ton of programs besides chess, like STEM, like robotics, like coding. We'll have homework help. We'll have a bunch of other things that we'll roll out as the program advances. But we want this to be a one-stop shop for families, for kids to come and to be able to get all of the things they need when it comes to education.
Now, I definitely want to take a moment to highlight that Project Pond emphasizes equity and diversity among its staff. Can you talk about the importance of that type of representation for the children?
Well, I believe it's first and foremost very important for kids to see someone that looks like them in the classroom. Chess had this connotation of being like for certain people only, right? Not for everyone. And I think that we provide the kids with a face that they can relate to, that they can speak to, and that brings them more into the game and gets them more interested. A lot of times we go to schools and in the beginning the kids are like, oh, I don't want to play chess. Chess is boring. Chess is this, chess is that. And then when they see the coach, they're like, oh, he looks like my cousin. He looks like my uncle. Let me see what he has to say. And the next thing you know, they're drawn in and they really enjoy the game. And I do think that it helps. Like when I was a kid, I would play people from all walks of life, all over the world. People we didn't have to speak the same language as. And it was a gap. It bridged the gap, you know what I mean? And so I think for kids to be able to grow out of certain environments, they do have to be able to connect to other people in other cultures, and chess does that for them.
And I'm curious to know, as you mentioned, a lot of kids are like, I don't know if I want to play chess. How do you get children interested? As we know, we live in the day and age of technology, and children have so many other sources and outlets for entertainment. So how do you get children to be locked in and to kind of learn this new skill?
Well, there's tons of approaches, but I think one of the cooler ones is for them to acknowledge who knows how to play chess and who does play chess that they don't know about, right? So probably their favorite athlete or favorite musician or favorite person plays. Someone in their house usually plays, right? So when we tell them the benefits of it and we tell them how they can use it to enhance all of the other things that they're already doing, they tend to take to it.
That's amazing. And I also that comes to mind, like this quote that always goes around. When somebody makes a smart move, they'll say that they're playing chess, not checkers.
Yes.
And so I think that this kind of brings this to life. If you have any advice for, I know I talked about how it was a struggle for me to learn. What advice would you give to a parent or somebody who's young who may want to learn, but they don't necessarily have the resources or the outlet or somebody to teach them?
Well, that's where technology comes in. There are tons of websites and apps that you can use that are very kid-friendly, very interactive, and is very helpful for those that don't have the resources. There are even some free websites that they can use as well. So that's where the technology part comes in, because it fills that need for the kid to want to do something digital, but also they learn at the same time.
All right, well, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I was going to say also for families and for families to maybe just look what's going on in the community. More than likely, there's probably someone sitting in a park playing, teaching lessons. There's a CBO or a center that's offering it, or their school probably has a program that the parents are not too savvy of. But once families really understand the benefits of chess, how it can help shape their kid in a way that any other board game or any other thing can't, and how it can be an asset to those things, parents will definitely push their kids to do it.
Well, I want to thank you both so much for joining us and telling us a little bit more about chess and the benefits of it. So, once again, thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
For more information, you can visit their website at projectpawngroup.com. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back with more Open right after this.
%19.7% of Bronxites currently experience food insecurity. Meanwhile, instead of these nice, colorful foods, this is the best food that they have access to. If this sounds like you, there are a bunch of resources to get healthy food for free or cheap. If you want to help, you might consider donating or volunteering in one of these places. Community fridges like this one are all over the city, and allow New Yorkers to conveniently donate extra food to people who might need it. Go to this link and find your nearest one. Food banks and pop-up events like these provide millions of healthy meals to families in need. These organizations are distributing meals to Bronxites as we speak, and are always accepting donations and volunteers.
Welcome back. July is Disability Pride Month, which is a time to celebrate the progress made and highlight the ongoing challenges faced by individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Albert Einstein College of Medicine is addressing this issue by developing a specialized curriculum for medical students. Joining us are Albert Einstein College of Medicine's principal educator of the Department of Pediatrics, Joanne Siegel, and medical students Luisa, Alvarez, and Anuva Goel. I want to thank you all so much for joining me.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, Joanne, can you tell me a little bit more about the new curriculum at Einstein and, kind of delve deeper into why it was developed?
Yes, so first of all, I just want to thank you for having me on today's show. I'm so pleased to join you during Disability Pride Month. It's a great time to promote inclusivity, reduce stigma, and highlight the importance of a diverse community by including those with disabilities. I've worked many years at the Albert Einstein College of Medicine with adolescents with intellectual and developmental disabilities, and I've also worked with their families in the community. Einstein has always had a strong pediatric neurology and neuroscience department. And our Rose Kennedy Center has been a national leader in clinical research in community programs for young people with developmental delays and disabilities. So we serve children and adults with conditions such as autism, cerebral palsy, spina bifida, intellectual and developmental disabilities. This population is aging and living longer because of improved medical interventions. So we saw a need for more training and education of future physicians and healthcare professionals for this unique yet universal needs of people and adults and children with disabilities. With this in mind, Einstein is at the forefront to include IDD in its medical school curriculum. And through the collaboration of faculty, students, family members, individuals, and the community, we've been able to include developmental disabilities as part of the curriculum at the Einstein Medical College. And so what we have done is included developmental disabilities as part of the first-year medical school student learning experience. That's where students volunteer to work in the community to learn about people and individuals with developmental disabilities. And they're going to community organization programs such as Adapt Community Services, where they have a day program for adults with IDD. Students also learn about IDD during their second year nervous system and human behavior class, and during a third year class that prepares students to enter hospital clerkship rotations. And then finally, in the fourth year, we have students who rotate through the Rose F. Kennedy Children's Evaluation and Rehabilitation Center Adult Primary Care Clinic. All of these experiences allow students to work directly with adults and family members, and it provides a basic foundation in developmental disabilities and addresses the unique communication, accessibility, and healthcare and treatment needs of the population. The program has been very successful, and in particular, the medical school students have become outstanding advocates with and for this group of vulnerable people.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, I definitely love to hear, from the medical students, what has your experience been like, kind of being a part of something like this. And Luisa, I understand that you're a fourth year medical student. Can you tell me a little bit more about, some of the significant lessons you've learned, throughout this process?
Yes, hi. I'm actually currently a third year medical student, but what I've done during this process, I first started with the group as part of service learning. So I was at ADAPT, the day program, where I got to meet a lot of individuals with intellectual disabilities as well as developmental disabilities. And through my involvement with the rest of the group, I started doing more events like wheelchair basketball at Henry Viscardi School, which is a school for children with disabilities. We also did a Hispanic Heritage Gallery event where we had images of people with disabilities in the Hispanic community, and we also invited them to come out with us and talk a little bit about their life and their journey as a person with disabilities. It's been an amazing experience, really getting the word out there and trying to get other students as excited as we are about learning and becoming better future physicians in this world where we really want to make sure that there's equity with all of our patients, and that includes our disabled community.
Thank you so much for sharing. And I really love the part about kind of going within those communities, looking into different communities, whether, maybe that be your racial or ethnic background. I think that's also very important to highlight. Anuva, I would love to hear from you, the importance of kind of within looking at that community, looking at the differences within the community, because not everyone is going to have the same experience based on their background and their walk of life. So can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. I think, through being a part of the AADMD student chapter, we've had lots of opportunities to hear from people from all walks of life, all ages, all relationships to disability. So we've heard from patients who are, children with disability to older adults with disability, as well as family members, parents, physicians. So it's a whole team effort when it comes to treating an individual and caring for an individual with disability. I think one of the biggest takeaways is the importance of always centering the patient, making sure that we don't make biases and assumptions about individuals with disability simply based on the fact that they have a disability, and rather, for example, we want to ask, one of our biggest learnings is making sure that we ask patients how they view themselves in relation to their disability, so that impacts the language we use when we're referring to the patient or talking about their disability. And we also want to make sure that we don't reduce any medical issues to just being because of their disability, and take it in the context, understand that an individual is not just their disability, and medical problems as well can be attributed to a broad range of things in an individual.
Now, I think this is an amazing effort, and I'm curious to know from any of you, how do you think the healthcare system as a whole, and I would even further say society as a whole, can address the disparities faced by people with IDDs, and what we can do to kind of understand a little bit more about people from that community, and as you mentioned, not assume that they are their IDD, that they're more than just, what they've gone through.
Sure.
I think. Go ahead.
Sure. I was going to say that I think part of that is, you know, educating individuals on IDD. I think there's like a lot of misconceptions about disability. Part of what we're doing, like within the health system, making sure that the health system is more equitable for patients with and individuals with disability, is providing more opportunities for medical students to learn directly from these individuals by having talks and panels with these individuals to share their direct experiences, including traumatic experiences they may have had in the healthcare system and what improvements they would like to see. I think also integrating this into the curriculum through cases, problem-based learning cases where students are actually able to practice the case with an individual with a disability and understand how they would communicate and interview that patient, how they would perform a physical exam on that patient. This is how we are able to, teach the actual skills that are necessary to doing patient-centered care with these individuals.
Thank you. And we have about a minute left, Joanne. I know you were going to say something. Did you want to expand on that?
Yes, I want to mention that recently, the federal government, through the National Institutes of Health and Health and Human Services, have designated individuals with disabilities as a vulnerable population and are strengthening the 504 regulations that are related to Americans with Disabilities Act. And they are targeting actually medical services as an area of need to improve. Okay, so we are actually spearheading this effort at the Albert Einstein College of Medicine. We've been doing this effort for many years, specifically beginning in 2017, including individuals and their family members to discuss the experiences they've had with trying to secure adequate, accessible medical care. This is an issue that the entire nation is now looking at, and hopefully the future will correct some of these difficulties in terms of accessing proper health care.
Well, I want to thank you all so much for joining us and having this very important discussion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For more information, you can visit the website at einsteinmed.edu. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back with more Open right after this.
Only 57% of New York City high school students are college ready by their senior year. "55% of high school graduates either have no plans to attend college or are uncertain that they will ever attend. "34% of young adults don't go to college because they can't afford it. Discover what's possible. BronxNet's education programs, internships, and opportunities help engage and inspire Bronx youth and beyond to pursue their passions. Be a part of the BronxNet family. Whether you're interested in our shows, joining a class, or donating to support our mission, visit BronxNet.org to learn more.
welcome back. Did you know that plastic is everywhere, even in the clothes we wear? From polyester shirts to elastic waistbands, synthetic fabrics are a significant source of plastic pollution. Plastic Free July is a global initiative promoting a shift away from single-use plastics. Here now is the Associate Director of Sustainability of Cotton Incorporated, Stephen Pires. Stephen, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Now, can you tell me a little bit more about Plastic Free July and its overall goal, main objectives?
Yeah, sure. The Plastic Free July is just an initiative set up by the Plastic Free Foundation. And the intent of this is fairly simple. It's just to get rid of plastic waste and eliminate it from our daily life.
Now, I was very surprised to hear that plastic could be in our clothes. Can you explain that further? How does plastic end up being part of our clothing?
Right. I mean, some people might not realize this, but depending on the type of fiber that is in your clothing, so say if you check the label and see cotton or polyester, those polyester garments are actually all plastic. So this is a source material that is derived from petroleum, and that's the same thing that you'd use to make a plastic bottle. Also, you have other forms of synthetic fibers like acrylic and nylon too. So it's really just kind of everywhere in apparel.
And can you give us some examples of some synthetic materials used in apparel? Like, what are some common everyday things that these materials could be within in our clothing?
Right. So again, if you look for the label and you see things like polyester or nylon or acrylic, those are all synthetic materials, and you could essentially equate that to a plastic garment, more or less. I mean, it's very similar. Chemically, it's the same thing, essentially.
Now, could you describe the environmental impact of plastic waste from synthetic clothing, both in terms of micro and macroplastics?
Yeah, so a lot of people also don't realize when you wash and wear your clothing, these little fibers actually break off and shed from the garment. And for a synthetic piece of clothing, this would actually be a microplastic. So again, a small piece of plastic. And those accumulate in the environment. We actually find them all over the place, from the Arctic to, in things like sea salt and honey. It's really unfortunate.
Now, I want to talk about the fact that a lot of our clothing today is made with polyester. And I think that it may be hard to find clothing that have fibers such as cotton in them. Could you talk about how either or both of those contribute to plastic pollution and compare them to each other?
Yeah, so for a cotton garment, again, this is a natural fiber. It grows in a field. So it's a plant material. So that fiber itself actually has no plastic. That actual fiber is all natural materials, where these synthetic garments, that fiber itself is made of that petroleum product that is plastic. And yeah, that's kind of the main thing. If you think about it in that way, to avoid plastic pollution, we need to choose natural fibers.
Now, throughout your work, how aware are consumers of this issue of microplastics in their clothing, and what steps are they currently taking to address the issue?
We've done research at Cotton Incorporated that shows about 70% of consumers are aware of microplastics, and this does factor into their purchase decisions in making new garment purchases. So it's really having an impact on consumers' behavior patterns. And I think as more and more research comes out, this is only going to cause them to understand this more and really, think with their pocketbook and try to make the right decision.
Now, what are some practical steps individuals can take to reduce their plastic footprint in their clothing choices?
The easiest thing to do is just to check the label, like I said earlier, and just really make sure you're looking for cotton and natural fibers. If you're seeing stuff like polyester in your clothing, then you are, essentially contributing eventually to this plastic leakage problem, plastic pollution at the end of the life of that apparel product. So check the label and look for cotton.
Now, I also want to talk about fast fashion. Have you found this contributes to the issue of plastics within our clothes, and how quickly we kind of go through fashion cycles. Have you found this in any of your research? And, in any way, how does it contribute to plastic pollution?
We just did a new study that evaluated the global apparel industry in terms of what their plastic pollution impact is. It's actually a staggering number. The majority of this is coming from synthetic garments, and it's actually generating about 7.4 million tons of plastic waste per year. And this is equivalent to about 820 Eiffel Towers worth of material. So this is a substantial amount. And again, if we try to really think about this, we need to do a better job at not buying too many pieces of clothing, especially synthetic ones, and just really eliminating this problem by not contributing to that issue.
Now, where can people go for more information about reducing plastic use in their lives and supporting Plastic Free July?
If you want more information on the science of sustainability in cotton, go to cottontoday.com. And to purchase cotton products and get more information about that, check out thefabricofourlives.com.
Now, what future trends or innovations do you see emerging in the apparel industry to address or combat plastic pollution?
There are definitely some trends emerging, but I think what we're trying to do is just educate the consumer, educate the textile manufacturers of this fact that plastics are leaking from our garments, whether that be big pieces of plastic from the synthetic apparel itself or these tiny pieces of microfibers that shed off. And what we've shown through our research is that those fibers and fabrics are not biodegradable. So these plastic fibers and fabrics, synthetic apparel, they don't biodegrade. Our research actually shows that cotton fibers and microfibers are biodegradable, and they readily biodegrade in all environments. So really, we just want to educate the industry on that topic and let consumers especially be aware of that too, because this is a really important concept for people to understand.
Now, in the concept of just people buying different clothes, people often think that better quality, such as cotton, tends to be a little bit more expensive. What are some ways we can combat this idea of thinking? Do these products tend to maybe last longer? Will it be better in the long run? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, we have research that suggests also that cotton fabrics are more durable and they do last longer. So while they could be slightly more expensive, they do last longer. And again, they're not contributing to this plastic problem. Everyone is concerned about, plastic bags, single-use plastics, all of these sort of issues. And if we can do our part in selecting natural fibers in our apparel, in our wardrobe, then we can contribute to that in eliminating some plastics out of our life.
Now, how can legislation and policy play a role in reducing plastic pollution from the clothing industry?
Yeah, I think that could be a avenue for this. At Cotton Incorporated, we provide research and promotion to the industry. So our research shows, again, that these fibers are degradable. Cotton fibers are biodegradable, whereas plastic fibers are not. So I think, for anyone in that space, just keep that in mind. And, those future decisions that are made, I think that's the key point for those individuals to point out.
Well, Stephen, I want to thank you so much for joining us. I definitely learned a lot, and I'm definitely going to think about the way I wear clothes and the clothes that I wear a little bit more often than I did before. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
For more information, you can visit the website at cottoninc.com. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back with more Open after this.
Hey, Creative Family. My name is Timothy Coleman, and I'm the Director of Education here at BronxNet. And I'm standing in BronxNet's Media and Technology Studios in the South Bronx because I want to let you know about an amazing program that we're bringing back that highlights the creativity of community members just like you. Emerging Media Makers is a show that introduces you to BronxNet's certified producers. They've taken a step in their creative journey by enrolling in BronxNet's media training classes. On this show, you'll get to see the many ways that our certified producers have created a space that's all their own. Emerging Media Makers, your passion lives here.
Welcome back. The Treasury Department has just unveiled its final regulations on digital asset tax reporting, shedding light on compliance and potentially closing a substantial $50 billion crypto tax gap in the U.S. Joining us is a Senior Director of Government Solutions for TaxBit, Miles Fuller. Miles, thank you so much for joining me.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for having me.
Now, I'm really excited to kind of learn a little bit more about this. Taxes gets everybody so stressed and confused, but I think this is a great opportunity to learn a little bit more. So can you provide an overview of TaxBit and what your organization does and specializes in?
Sure. TaxBit's a technology company. We do software that is really designed to enable companies that operate in this space meet the regulatory compliance requirements. So that might be companies that are helping individuals buy or sell or trade cryptocurrencies, or a company that might be holding cryptocurrency on its own books and records, and it needs to account for that properly under various accounting rules. And then we also, as the third prong, is we help governments or governmental agencies that need to deal with compliance review for individuals. Now, one specific area that's probably relevant to today's conversation is the tax world. So we work with agencies like the Internal Revenue Service on certain stuff, but we also work with companies that the exchanges, or what are now would be known as brokers, that enable tax compliance. So it makes it easier for individuals to file taxes. And I can talk a little more about that. That's what these regulations that just came out deal with.
Now, the Treasury Department, as you mentioned, has just released final digital tax regulations. Why are these regulations so significant for the digital asset industry?
They should be huge in just helping individuals have an easier time filing their taxes if that individual, does stuff involving cryptocurrency or what the government now has taken to calling digital assets. For those that operate in that particular space for the past 10 or 15 years, if you were buying or selling cryptocurrencies, when it came tax time, it was very, very difficult to do all the calculations, to track the various units of, say, Bitcoin or Ether that you owned, and then hopefully get it all correct on your tax return. One of the areas that came in a few years ago, Congress came in and said, hey, we should really make this easier. It's not clear if people are being compliant. And on that front, it's probably even less clear if the lack of compliance is intentional or just because people have a very, very difficult time doing it. So Congress created some laws in late 2021 that would require what are known now as digital asset brokers to provide tax information returns to their customers. A tax information return is akin to what you and I and all probably get, like a W-2, or you might get a 1099 document at the end of the year. These are documents that we receive that help us put the correct information on our tax returns. So now certain digital asset brokers are going to provide that type of documentation for their customers, so their customers have just easy things to reference when they're preparing their tax returns, whether they're doing that personally or they're relying on a tax preparer to do it.
Now, how will these new regulations impact the digital asset industry, both in the U.S. and internationally?
Oh, that's a really good question, especially because the digital asset industry is very much a global industry. The nature of cryptocurrency itself, everything's on networks that span around the world, so you can quickly move assets around. Now, here in the U.S., it'll have an impact domestically because the regulations that were passed or finalized, I should say, apply to U.S. digital asset brokers that have U.S. customers or have a connection here to the U.S. And there's a little bit of gray area rules, or I shouldn't say gray area, a little bit of nuance for brokers that are located outside the U.S., but they may have a connection, meaning they may be servicing U.S. customers, and that's maybe a little nuance to get into. But the idea is here domestically, individual U.S. taxpayers will get documentation to help them do their taxes. Now, the brokers that are going to provide this documentation are going to need to get some systems in place. One of the key elements of that is initially they need to start collecting information about their customers, such as their customers' names, addresses, your tax identification number, which is really your social security number. So they know who to give the document to and who to provide information to the IRS about. On the international front, it's going to, the plan of these regs is going to connect with some broader international rules that are being looked to be enacted in the next couple of years to make the global reporting system more broad. So people, as they operate even domestically or outside the United States, will have an easier time doing their taxes accurately.
Now, what are the next steps businesses should take now to prepare for the new compliance obligations that will come with these regulations in future tax seasons?
So I think the first step, the regulations, I didn't touch on this yet, as finalized, will go into effect beginning January 1, 2025. And what that means is as of January 1, 2025, digital asset brokers, so those are the businesses that will be required to report, they will need to start collecting information from their customers. And they will need to onboard with what we would call onboard their customers, which is getting information about their tax identifying number, their name, address, that kind of stuff. There's a process there that they should be undertaking. They should be starting that process really immediately to get that going, because that's sort of a big lift to have happen. Separately, on January 1st, 2025, they will need to start collecting transaction level data about transactions that are occurring on their exchange. The good news, most of these businesses are already doing that. In my experience in this space, most of the digital asset brokers are already capturing that information. What they need to start doing, though, is thinking about how they're going to make that information available or accessible so they can put it on this form, because when you get into early 2026, that is the time period where they will need to file a form with the IRS and give a copy to their customer that describes, provides during the year, what are all the sales of digital assets that occurred during 2025. So there's a couple different steps there, but really the first thing is just to get things moving and start gathering customer information and start identifying what information they're already collecting, what they still need to collect, and how they're going to make that collected information accessible.
Now, as I mentioned, anything to do with taxes always gets people stressed out, a little bit nervous. Do you think this will actually help people, especially those who are kind of in this industry?
I think so, and I'm 100% with you. I spent 16 years as a lawyer for the Internal Revenue Service, but the idea in my life, if I were to get a letter in the mail from the Internal Revenue Service, I would still get that same level of stress or anxiety that all of us get. Even if you're thinking like, no, I'm pretty sure I did everything right. And this space, the digital asset space, is even that plus more, because it's so difficult to take the data you get and turn it into an accurate tax calculation. So I think with that in mind, this new information reporting is going to ease the stress of a lot of individual taxpayers, and that's a very good thing. It makes it very easy. Like if you have a job at the end of the year, you get a W-2 document, hey, I just need to take what's on this document, put it into TurboTax or put it on the tax return myself, or take it to my tax preparer. He knows where to put it, or she knows where to put it, and do all of that very seamlessly with a lot less stress. And you have the ability to say, hey, this is the document they gave me. This is what they said the number was. I just put the number in the box where it was supposed to be. Everything should be good. And I think that will reduce some stress for individuals, or at least I hope it will. And from the IRS's side, they will have an easier time taking that information in, understanding who is compliant, and really have maybe an easier time understanding if there's people that are not compliant. And then, individuals that are compliant don't have to worry about getting letters from the IRS when they're like, hey, I did it right. Why are you talking to me? The IRS can focus on the people that truly are not compliant.
Now, I think this is really interesting because it shows how, as a society, we are evolving and, how things are changing. And I think that's so interesting. And it's so interesting to see that, things are being updated with this. With that being said, where can listeners go to find more information about these regulations? And how might this also impact their digital asset investments?
Yeah, well, I think on the upside, to answer your first question, where could they go? They could come to, our company name is TaxBit. They can come to our company website. That's www.taxbit.com. We actually have a variety of blog posts there describing these regulations and sort of the evolution of these regulations since the law was enacted back in 2021. There is a lot of other specific individual content as well, just talking about crypto taxation in general. So if you're an individual and have questions, you can learn a little bit more, but definitely if you're an enterprise or a business and you have questions about what your obligations might be in the tax world or even in the financial accounting world, we have a lot of content there available to do it, to help with that. Now, I was talking about that, and You had the second question.
The
What was
second
the second
question
question?
was basically how might this impact, someone's digital asset investments, moving forward?
Oh, on the investment side, what I think longer term, although you probably saw there's been a bounce even this week, as we've heard news that the SEC is approving a spot ETF for Ether, which is a specific type of cryptocurrency. But this type of compliance or reporting going into effect, I think is going to have, even in the short and in the longer term, a increase, like a increase in the value or the desire for individuals to enter into this ecosystem and invest in cryptocurrencies. One of the things is over the past number of years, cryptocurrency has been really an alternative asset that little people are nervous about. It is very volatile, and there's limited amount of investments. Well, the way to make it more mainstream and more of an acceptable investment to individuals is when you start to put up some of these rules in place so people understand, like, hey, if I do this, I'm going to get this information. I'll know what my tax obligations are. I'm going to feel like I'm not doing something that the government thinks is illegal or illegitimate. So I think the long-term impact of the regulations will be a benefit to this entire ecosystem. It's as it brings it more mainstream and makes it more widely accepted globally.
Now, I definitely want to add that, first of all, thank you so much for joining us and kind of having this conversation just to help ease the stress and the anxiety that comes with dealing with anything with taxes. And as we mentioned, cryptocurrency is, although it's been around for a little while, it's still kind of new to a lot of people and more people are getting into it. And so this is information that people definitely need to know. So I definitely want to say thank you so much for joining us and kind of having that discussion.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you very much for having me. I love to join and talk about this stuff. It's a super interesting space. And it is. It's a new area and it's evolving. So it's great to talk to people about it and educate them a little bit and always answer questions that people have.
Thank you once again.
Thanks.
For more information, you can visit their website at taxbit.com. We've come to the end of our show today. I'd like to thank all of our guests for joining us and you, the viewers, for tuning in. If you missed any part of today's show, you can catch the Recable cast on Optimum Channel 67, Verizon Fios 2133, or watch anytime on the web at BronxNet.org. You can catch a brand new episode of Open with Rena Valentine on Friday. This wraps up this episode for us. I'm Kibin Alleyne. Make sure to keep this channel wide open. Take care.